Okay, people are coming in. Yeah.
Hello to those who have joined us already. We're going to wait a few minutes to let everyone come online and join us. And hopefully have everyone join who wants to join. Hello to those that are online with us already. We are just waiting for everyone to come online and connect, but I think that we do have rooms connected, which is great. Apologies for the last session. Hi, everyone. Happy great day of GICT and boys who support them. All right, well, I think maybe we will go ahead and get started. Although I'm seeing a few more attendees come online. But in the interest of time, also want to make sure that we can get through everything. So I'll just go ahead and start. So thanks everyone for joining us and welcome to our session today called Environmental Innovators, an app to turn the tide on plastic pollution. I'm Margot Granite and I'm joined by my colleagues in the Islands program who will share shortly more on the program and why we have a focus on plastic pollution. But first, I want to share a bit about what this session is all about. So we're going to share one way that technology can support environmental action through learning and engagement with youth like you. And this is through the Tide Turners app. In today's session, we'll share why we need to think about plastic, how it came about, what issues exist with plastics, and why we, or you, as Tide Turners, can get involved, and especially using the app can incite action and learn more information about plastic and why we need to solve this problem. So technology can support you to fight plastic pollution. This is really what we're trying to share with the Tide Turners app today, that we want you to be able to use this app to empower you to learn and take action to save our planet. We'll be running through the app content of the first level in this kind of facilitated approach, because we will be soon launching the app in June, which you will all be then invited to participate in and finish the different levels and challenges to be a tide turner, because we know that we all need to be in this together with your friends, with your community, turning the tide together. So we have an interactive session planned today, so please pay attention. We'll have questions to ask via different Zoom polls, different platforms that we'll be sending links in the chat for you to use to engage. But we also understand that many of you are joining from different collective centers. And so if this is you and you do not have an individual device to use for some of this, please do take out a piece of paper and a pencil or pen so that you can follow along and jot down your responses as well. And then keep in mind that you'll be able to contribute these into the app when it is available as well. We want this to be interactive, so if you do have access to the chat, please do share your questions and comments. You can also use the Q&A on the Zoom function. And if there are any technical issues, please do also use that, especially for any administrators in the centers as well. So the first thing that we are going to do is to start us off. We want to hear from you about your own thoughts about plastic. And so we are sharing a link to the Mentimeter in the chat, but also online or on the screen, you can see if you go to menti.com with your device, you can enter in this code. And on there, then we've got 2 questions to ask you. And again, if you're using just pencil and paper, feel free to write down what comes to mind when you think about plastic. So you can write down 3 words or short phrases of what comes to mind for you when you think about plastic. So again, if you have access to the chat, you can use that link or go to menti.com and use that code. Write down 3 words or short phrases on what comes to mind when you think about plastic. And I'm going to switch my screen over here. And hopefully see that this is starting to be populated. All right, we're getting some responses coming in. Pollution is a big one. Recycling, it's waste. There's too much. Please stop making it. It does not decompose. It could be harmful. See some single-use plastics. For other folks, adding in, it's sometimes useful. You can use it for storage. Someone has written in private companies. All right, that's great. Give folks a few more minutes to add in any inputs here. And then for those of you who are in the rooms, the next question is, look around you. What do you see that is plastic or has plastic in it as part of it? And for those on menti.com, you should be able to advance to the next question as well. So we're getting responses, lots of different things around people. What has plastics in it? If you don't know, we'll discuss some of this later in the session. Air conditioning, spoons, a book cover, awesome. A house phone, bottle caps, plastic bags, a lamp, lots of bags, bottles, a ruler, a keyboard, different cords, cards, plates, clothes hangers. Right, there are lots of different things that we use every day that are so close to us that have plastic in them. Give folks a few more seconds to add in their thoughts there. And again, if you're on a piece of paper, you can just add in jot down on your piece of paper what you see around you. All right. Well, that's great. So we just wanted to have this little exercise in the beginning to see how abundant plastic is and how much variety there is and how we use it as well. So I'm going to switch us back to our presentation. And I'm going to invite my colleague Clara, who's a colleague for the Global Islands program, to share with us more about the Tide Turners application as part of our larger Global Islands program. So Clara, over to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Clara, and I work in the Islands team. Thank you, Margot. So Islands is a global program working to fight pollution in small islands developing states, such as the Caribbean islands, but also islands in the Pacific Ocean Atlantic and Indian Ocean. We work on a set of different topics, but one of the most important is plastic. We also work on e-waste. So, for example, your phone when it will be broken, or end-of-life vehicles when the car doesn't work anymore. Point is, all this waste piles up in small islands, and it is difficult to manage. And we are here to help governments and civil society to fight plastic pollution. But we really needed the help of everybody. And this is why we really want to engage with youth like you to support us in turning the tide on plastic pollution toward a more circular economy. Yes, so we work in the Caribbean, specifically in Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Guyana, St. Kitts and Nevis, Santa Lucia, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago. So in all these countries, we do have the Tide Turners as an initiative to fight plastic pollution. We have in-person activities going on, but we are also launching an app to allow for individual users to learn and engage on plastic pollution. And this is what we are presenting today. And we really hope that you will download and use the app when it will be launched in June. Over to Margot, and thank you.
Great. Thanks, Clara. So now we want to invite you again to share some information about what your own experience has been. So if you do have a device and can access the chat, we are sharing a link in the chat, which is going to take you to a short kind of survey question form. It's just a few questions about you, your name, age, where you live, and then also how you feel about plastics. And again, for those of us that are joining in the centers, we are going to run through all of these questions together. There's just 6 of them, and you'll be able to jot down your answers on your piece of paper. So let's get started. There's no wrong answers, so whatever you're feeling. This first one is on a scale of 0 to 5, 0 being very bad and 5 being very good. Do you think plastic is good or bad? And then based on your number, again, 0 is bad, 5 is good. Why do you think plastic is good or bad? And again, for those who are on the type form, you should just be able to click through on the different questions and keep moving. Our second question is, do you like to use plastic straws with your drink? Just a simple yes or no. What's your preference? To use a plastic straw or to not use a plastic straw? Our third question is, do you recycle plastic in your house? This response could be yes, no, sometimes, or maybe you can't. It's not possible to recycle in your house. The next question is, do you often see plastic waste in your community or daily life? Yes or no? Question number 5 is, in your community, do you think there are good, reliable plastic recycling systems in place? Yes or no? And number 6 is, where do you think your plastic trash or your plastic waste goes once you're done using it? So just to keep in mind again that we are really running through today's session as a kind of example of what is in the Tide Turners app. We have a variety of different learning segments, and then interactive elements, and then also challenges for each level of the Tide Turners app for someone such as yourself to become a Tide Turner champion. And so really this part is just to have you think about what plastic means to you, where it is in your life, how abundant and manageable it is. Because we really know that plastic is everywhere. And it's everywhere because plastic is very practical for our lives. It is light, easy to shape, cheap to make, and durable for everyday use in many, many items. Plastics provide important benefits from life-saving medical devices to safe and long-lasting food storage. And maybe let me just note for folks that are on the Typeform, if you have not yet come back to the presentation now as well. So a little history about plastic. It actually was created in 1907 as an alternative to natural materials such as wood, metal, stone, bone, even tusk and horn, which were really expensive. They were rigid, heavy, and difficult to source, and took a long time to make any products out of these. Synthetic plastics made from fossil fuels, however, could be made very quickly and into cheap, light, and durable alternatives as products. So our first poll question for you, which is going to come up now on the Zoom, is knowing this, when do you think the first plastic shopping bag was patented and made available to consumers? Was it in 1865, 1925, 1965, or 1995? And I'm launching that poll now, so you should be able to see it. If you're on a device, go ahead and respond. And if you are in one of the centers, jot down A, B, C, or D for the different answers you think it might be. I'll give you about 10 more seconds to respond to this. All right, going to end this poll. So our results are showing kind of a split, at least from folks that are online with us, between the answer is 1925 or 1965. And the correct answer is actually 1965. That just over 60 years ago, we created plastic bags, and somewhat alarming to recognize is that we are now producing 5 trillion plastic bags worldwide annually. This is because plastic is so cheap to produce, and so it's put in lots of products for widespread use with lots of plastic materials and products. So plastic bags are just one of these. And so we are creating a lot of plastics. And our next quiz question to you is, how much plastic do you think humans have produced in the past 70 years? Do you think it is 1 million metric tons of plastic, 700 million metric tons, or 8.3 billion metric tons? So you should be able to access the poll now. And for those in the rooms, if you want to write down A, B, or C, you could even hold up in your rooms if you're choosing A, B, or C. All right, just a few more seconds for folks to make their decision. All right, for this one, for those online, some said 700 million metric tons, but most said 8.3, which is correct. Oh, which is correct. It is 8.3 billion metric tons. That is so much plastic. It is hard to sometimes even imagine what that means in such a short amount of time also. So maybe in simpler terms, we can think of this as more plastic exists than any other human-made material besides steel and cement, which we've been creating for a much longer amount of time. This is the equivalent of 80 million blue whales or 1 billion elephants. And so plastic's durability means it does not go away once thrown away in the garbage or the recycling bin. And the fossil fuel companies that are making these plastics and industries that are including plastic in their different products, such as electronics or cars, clothing and textile industries, they're all increasing their production. So where we have created 8.3 billion tons of plastic at this point, this number is actually increasing every year, every day, and is accelerating as well, which means that we have more and more plastic every day for us to manage and for the planet also to manage and to take care of. So this is really why we need to come together to fight this plastic. Plastic's durability is actually the fundamental problem with the life cycle and management of plastic. So because it is not a natural product, but is a synthetic polymer created from fossil fuels, it doesn't biodegrade or decompose naturally in a way that's not harmful to the environment. So unlike organic materials, like orange peels or bread crusts, bacteria can't break plastics down into a harmless state. This means we can't get rid of it, at least not for a very long time. So plastics take a different amount of time to decompose, however. So our next question to you is, do you know how long a single plastic bottle takes to decompose? Is it 10 years, 50 years, 250 years, or 450 years? So again, if you're in the rooms, either write down, or you could even hold up a 1, 2, 3, 4 for A, B, C, D. If you think it's 10, 50, 250, or 450 years. All right, hopefully everyone's got their answer. So folks were divided online, at least, between 50 years and 450 years. Well, the actual answer is 450 years, a staggeringly long amount of time. The plastic bottle you use on Earth will be here way past when you and I will be here, or even your kids' kids' kids. And so it's also important to recognize that these plastic bottles that take 450 years to break down, we're using as humans 1.2 million plastic bottles every minute around the world. That is a lot of plastic bottles that are not going anywhere for a very long time. So other plastics, like I mentioned, take a different amount of time to break down or decompose. This image shows other common items and how long they take to break down. Since plastics take so long to break down, it's estimated that between 80 to 90% of the plastic ever produced on Earth has now become waste, which is piling up on our planet. And this correlates with plastic being durable because it doesn't break down. But so does this mean that it can be used over and over? Not necessarily. Actually, today, almost half of the plastic created now goes into products that are used only one time and then thrown out. These are called single-use plastics. So this image shows a few different types of single-use plastics and the different chemicals that are in those. But these are things very commonly used, such as straws, shopping bags, balloons, plastic packaging on products, food packaging at stores, or also takeaway food containers, diapers, any of those plastic bottles, and many, many more items. And as said before, more and more products are being made with plastics in them unnecessarily, and this includes single-use, but also multi-use items as well. So the plastic waste problem keeps growing and growing, and the growth of plastic product manufacturing is accelerating faster and faster. So again, we have more plastics and more waste. These and tons more single-use packaging and disposable items are polluting our planet at an alarming rate. These plastics are often unnecessary and avoidable as well. So the plastic bag, coming back to that again, 1 million plastic bags are used every minute, but their working life is fairly short. So our next question for you is, on average, how long do you think a plastic bag is used by a person before being thrown away? Is it 12 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day, or 1 week? So again, either write down or hold up your fingers if you think it's A, B, C, or D in your room. So we've got some answers for each of this, and all of these are relatively short amounts of time, right, for that plastic bag to be used. But the correct answer is actually just 12 minutes. Most people only use a plastic bag for 12 minutes, which might mean that they go to a store, they buy something, it's put in a plastic bag, and they walk outside and they grab that item out of it, and then they throw away that plastic bag. It's really short. So this is similar for many plastic products as well. And unfortunately, of all those plastic bags, we know that only 1% are recycled. Because often single-use packaging and disposable items cannot be recycled, actually. So they become this waste. Overall, only 9% of the plastic has ever been recycled that we've been making. But remember that while plastics take a very long time to decompose, during this time, they can also actually break into smaller pieces and leak harmful chemicals and smaller particles into the soil and water, which makes its way into rivers and then into the ocean. Every year, up to 13 million tons of plastic leaks into the oceans, which endangers marine ecosystems, wildlife, and also our human health and safety. This is the same as pouring an entire garbage truck of plastic into the ocean every minute. And unfortunately, this means that soon as our plastic production and use accelerates, there'll actually be more plastic by weight in the sea than there are fish. So microplastics and nanoplastics are some of those smaller particles. And these come from plastic debris, which range from a size of 5 millimeters long, which is pretty tiny, to less than a few nanometers long, which was not able to be seen by the naked eye. Some are used in toothpaste or cosmetics, but most result actually from floating waste that is constantly exposed to UV radiation from the sun and crumbles into smaller and smaller pieces. So this happens just by sitting in the sunshine, either on a soccer field or in the ocean, and through different chemical processes, they release toxic chemicals from the plastic. So we maybe have heard of microplastics, but just how widespread are microplastics? Our next question is, where have microplastics been found? Have they been found in sea ice in Antarctica, in glacier ice in the Himalayas, human babies, sand on beaches, even in rainwater, or all of the above? Ooh. Let me launch that one. So again, where have we found microplastics that we have solid data and evidence of them being found? All right, you've got your final answers. I'll end the poll. So whatever you clicked on, you were basically right, because it is everywhere. We have been now able to document microplastics in all of these places around the globe in the different environmental systems. And we know that there are lots of these microplastics. 51 trillion particles of microplastic float in just our oceans. And soon there will be, again, more than biodiversity in the sea. Unfortunately, plastic waste and microplastics are not safe for animals, ecosystems, or human health. Animals, including fish, turtles, and birds, mistake small and microplastics as food, and they unknowingly ingest them, which enters their systems. And if it's an animal that we eat, then it also comes into the food chain for us. Even humans are consuming now microplastics, often without knowing it, of course, at a rate of about a credit card per week, which is not insignificant. We're consuming them in the food we eat, in the water we drink, and also even now the air that we're breathing. This has really detrimental effects to our health because the plastics can negatively impact our different systems, such as our reproductive systems, also our hormonal systems, which can also then have impacts such as diabetes, causing cancer. And again, this can have really serious effects for children of young ages, with increasing severity or occurrence of asthma, obesity, and also early puberty, so affecting their reproductive cycles as well. So it's important to remember that we are just learning about these impacts, though, and in many cases, the research is still new, and because plastics haven't been around that long, we need to keep studying it to learn what these impacts are, so that we really can understand how detrimental it is to our lives and well-being. So this next activity is one of the first challenges in the Tide Turner application, and we're going to give you an opportunity to run through it now all together. So if you are joining from a device, we are dropping in the chat the link for another type form, and we'll do this together on the slides as well for those that are joining from a shared screen space. So our first question is that, and the reason that we want to do this is that a very first step is to understand what our plastic use is so that we can change what that plastic use is, so that we can address this crisis. So for those joining in the shared centers, have you used any single-use plastic items today? And you can see a reminder of some of the single-use items on the screen as well. You can just say yes or no. Have you used any of these single-use plastic items today? And do you notice when you use these single-use plastic items? Never, sometimes, or always? Maybe you're very aware of these plastics in your life. And for this next question, we're going to show you a table, and you can write down how often you use certain items. So you want to mark down the most frequent that you use these items. So for a plastic bag, do you use it daily, or did you use one today already? Or weekly or monthly, or perhaps rarely you use plastic bags, you bring bags, reusable bags with you, or you never use them. Same for a plastic bottle or a plastic cup. Are you using them daily, weekly, monthly, etc.? So you can just mark down how often you're using these different items. And again, if you're on the type form, you should just be able to keep running through the questions and submitting. And when you get to the end, you can come back to the presentation. So the last ones on here are for plastic food takeaway container, or have you used a balloon today, or this week, this month, or a plastic sachet, which is kind of just like a wrapping of plastic that might be on like a wet wipe or something. All right, and if you've got those answered, then we know that there are other plastics, not just those single-use plastics, and these can also be not so great for us. And so curious to know which of these you've used this month. Have you used clothes? Maybe a plastic toothbrush, rain gear, or protective rain equipment? a phone or computer, a backpack, maybe some soap, or perhaps you used a car as well. So it's probably fairly likely that you've used a lot of these things. Just trying to show here how prevalent plastics are in our society, in our everyday lives, that we can't really get away with not using these products that have plastics now as a part of them. So plastics are present in all of our lives. And so in island nations, though, tons of plastic reach them, often through being imported for use by everyone as well, because plastic is not manufactured on islands. Plastics obviously help in many different ways on islands, all those that we've already mentioned, but also specifically in livelihoods such as fishing, aquaculture, tourism, recreation, and shipping. These plastics ultimately become waste too, the same as everywhere else. However, it can be more difficult for island nations to deal with the plastic waste. And so why do we think that maybe it's more difficult for islands to deal with plastic waste? Is it because of limited landmass on islands? Is it a lack of plastic management infrastructure, such as recycling facilities on islands or the teams to actually collect and sort? Or also the remote location of many islands that can be far from recycling centers, or all of the above? So for those online, you can go ahead and submit your answers on the poll, and those in the rooms, write down A, B, C, or D, or hold up your fingers and see what your fellow friends think. All right, just a few more seconds to think about this one. Limited landmass, lack of plastics management infrastructure, remote locations, or all of the above. Everyone online chose all of the above, and if you are in the rooms, this is the correct answer, because all of these things are contributing to the challenges for islands to process and handle plastic waste. And so any of those would have been also a correct answer. In island states, same as elsewhere, without the systems and infrastructure to manage plastic, it gets into our environment, the ocean, and it can be harmful, with microplastics also as a result. This affects, of course, the environment, our food, our health, biodiversity, with a heap of other linked issues. But the good news is that we actually have the solutions to plastic pollution crisis and already know what these are, and they're available to us. We just need to make changes in behavior, infrastructure, and policies. So this is a large part of the second and third levels of the Tide Turners app and challenges, is to learn more about that and ways to make those changes, which will share solutions as well. And it's important to keep in mind that just as you're all doing right now, we can each do our own part. And one part of that is exactly this, understanding our use, consumption, and how we can start to make changes. It's also really important to share this information with others, to advocate for change and address the plastic pollution crisis. Again, this is what Tide Turners is all about. So there are some key takeaways that we want you to have from this session and also from the Tide Turners app. The first one is that the problem is accelerating. We're making more and more plastic. We're having more and more plastic waste, and we need to be able to get a handle on this. It's also really important to remember that this is damaging to the health and safety of ecosystems, animals, and people. So we really need to pay attention and work towards fixing this. And also that we have the solutions to make changes and fix this problem. Again, you'll get to learn more about these on the Tide Turner levels in the subsequent chapters for the Tide Turners. So do you want to be an environmental innovator? using technology to fight pollution? We hope so. So to start this, we really want you to be able to join us on the app when it is available in June. You can download the app, you can complete the other challenges and become a Tide Turner champion. Again, what we've just went through today is a lot of what the first session would be like. Not too challenging, just sharing your input and information with us. And then what we think is really cool is using the app, then you can also connect with a global community of Tide Turners. As we mentioned, the Islands program is global. So we have other young people that are participating in the Tide Turners Challenge in the Pacific, in the Indian Ocean. You can connect with them, and also, of course, across a range of countries in the Caribbean where lots of you all are located. And then as part of being a Tide Turner, you get to share this with friends and challenge them to also become Tide Turners. So the app will be launched in June. And one final thing that we have for you is that we would like to know if you would be interested in learning about when we launch the app. So sharing another link in the chat, or if you are interested, you can get in touch with us via email and we will make sure that you are notified when the app is launched. You can email this email on the screen here, clara@ggkp.org. And we will send you the app to download when it's available, which is very soon. And then we also really want to welcome you and invite you to participate and check out the Tide Turners community that already exists on the Green Forum. Again, where you can interact and engage with other like-minded environmental innovators and activists on this really important issue of plastic pollution. All right. So that is it for our session. We hope that you enjoyed it, learned something new, are amazed by some of these statistics, but also empowered to go out there and make a difference, utilizing this app soon to really turn the tide on plastic pollution. And with that, we will send you on your way to a break and your next sessions. Thank you so much for being here. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.